actually more towards the end of our presentation, and hopefully everything will be clear and you'll leave with some great information. When those sessions are done, we'll have a question and answer session for you to ask any questions you'd like. Hopefully we'll be able to answer all of your questions and provide you with some great tools moving forward. So again, my name is Jess Russell, and presenting with me this evening is Ms. Bell. She is one of our 5th grade teachers. Ms. Bell, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody. Glad I could be here tonight. Along with my cat, he has to join.
Thanks. So we're going to start with just a few things that are going to benefit you as a parent, and if you've got some kiddos with you, they're going to get some important information as well. We're going to talk about how we can keep our kids safe, happy, and healthy in this virtual environment that we've really never experienced before. So what I'd like you to do is think first about what your biggest concerns are about your child or your children being in a virtual environment. And then take a moment to think about what are the benefits of our students being in a virtual environment. I think a lot of our fears as parents, I'm a parent, I have 2 very young boys myself, they're not school age yet, but the fear that we have as parents is keeping them protected, keeping them safe, and making sure that they are healthy, of course. And so I know a lot of the concerns that come from this virtual environment are how can we do that, and hopefully we're going to address those things today. But the other thing I want you to think about is the benefits of being in a virtual environment are also very great. We do have a lot of connectivity because of being virtual, and a lot of benefits to preparing our students for this digital age. So our guiding question for tonight is, how do we use media and balance as a family to find quality content, set expectations around healthy use to prevent conflict, and raise media-savvy consumers and creators? And, unfortunately, because our time is so limited tonight, we're only going to have a few minutes to touch on these things. I mean, this is such a huge, broad topic, but hopefully we'll be able to, like I say, address some of these so that you can leave with some important information. So one thing to keep in mind is that technology changes so quickly, and so there's no magic pill that we can prescribe to say, okay, moving forward, this is the #1 thing that you need to do all the time. Because technology changes, it's so important that we as parents continue to be engaged with our children, and to continue to educate ourselves and stay on top of how things are changing and what our children are doing. So the overall theme here this evening is communication, and we're going to touch on that as we continue. So all about the balance. So to ensure media isn't using you, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions, or I'm sorry, these questions. If you can answer yes to these questions, then you're probably striking a pretty good balance within your home. If the answer is no, then we need to kind of figure out what are some things that we can change in order to make sure that we have that healthy balance. You'll notice that a lot of this has to do with that work-life balance, and I'm sure some of you have heard this term. And what that means is, are we being conscious and aware of how much time is being spent on the computer itself? And I know, again, that was a concern that was brought up when the idea of going virtual was first kind of presented. Are we really allowing our students to be on a screen all the time? The Academy of Pediatrics says, oh, we need to limit their screen time. And so how do we do that and make sure that they are getting the education that they need, but also the balance of physical activity, sleep, engagement, and so forth? Later this evening, Ms. Baer, Ms. Chu, and Ms. Heck will be doing a presentation in one of our breakout rooms about work-life balance. And so they'll offer some awesome tips that you can keep in mind as you, navigate this new environment. There's also some overall guiding principles that can take some of the worry and headache out of parenting around use. Just take a moment to read through these, and I'm going to touch on them as we go. One of the biggest things is using media with your child. Co-use and co-watching can actually create great bonding. And I know you're thinking, well, I don't have time for that. I'm working full time, and I can't sit down with them all the time. And it's understandable. Fortunately, we have great teachers at Bryn Mawr Park who are constantly emphasizing that you know, this certain practices are healthy and certain websites and certain behaviors are healthy. And so, you know, while teachers and parents can't be with our children all the time, it's important that when you do have the opportunities to sit down and have those conversations about, you know, what did you use today in school? Show me what you're doing. Show me, you know, if they have a cell phone, show me what apps you're using. Show me how you're engaging with your friends, and have those open conversations. Know your own rules, be consistent, and have follow through. You know, if your rule is they get, I don't know, a half hour to an hour of free social media time or free game time, set that expectation, set that rule, and maintain it. If that rule is broken, follow through on whatever the consequence is. Set the expectation and rehearse. It kind of follows in the same field. Connect media to real life. You know, make sure that kids understand reality versus fiction, what is real and what is not. You know, their friends are real, of course, but certain things that are shown on the internet are not, of course. Talk about commercials and other advertising. You know, even adults, we are sometimes tricked into clicking on certain ads when they look like, you know, go or submit buttons. And advertisers are very good at doing that. They want you to click on those things to get your money. Encourage creation as well as consumption. So it shouldn't just be, you know, your child is constantly just staring at a screen. We want them to be engaging. And again, our teachers spent a lot of time over the summer training to learn how to create lessons that are engaging, to learn how to get your child creating things and displaying their work and showing what they're capable of. And then start talking about digital citizenship, you know, talking about what is appropriate and what's inappropriate. You know, in person, we constantly teach our kids appropriate versus inappropriate behavior. Well, the same has to be done in a digital environment. And we're going to touch a little bit more on this in just a moment. But again, lastly, model the behavior you want to see in your kids. You know, are you on your phone at the dinner table? And do you want your children to do that? If you don't want your children to be on the phone at the dinner table, then put your phone away. It's something that we struggle with even with our 2-year-old, you know, and he tells us, he said, Mommy, no phones at the table. And, you know, I have to make that conscious effort to put them away. When your child is on the computer, you know, it's one thing during school, our teachers are constantly giving them age-appropriate websites, books, programs, videos, but it's also great for you to encourage your child to use those age-appropriate things that have that educational value. Now, everything I have read as a parent has always said, oh, there's no such thing as educational value in screen time, but I totally disagree. I think there are websites, I think there are videos, I think there are different types of media that can definitely encourage some education for sure. So one question that we get a lot is, what is FCPS doing to protect my child? The biggest thing that FCPS is doing is something called content filtering, and that's based on users. So when your child logs into their computer, they have a certain profile, and the computer is formatted a certain way so that it knows that a student is using this computer. And in fact, the same, very similar content filtering comes to teachers as well. And what that does is it restricts certain websites that have deemed either inappropriate, not educationally helpful. So sometimes like blogs are blocked. Sometimes, you know, certain, like you say, certain websites are blocked. The very obvious ones, of course, are blocked. But I want to emphasize that it's not perfect. And children are savvy and they can figure out workarounds. You know, Fairfax County has invested a lot of time and money to protecting our children, especially in this time. But I just want you to know that most things are blocked, but it is so important that you continue to monitor their use. The same thing is true with permissions on the computer. Your child does not have permission to change certain settings, so you don't have to worry about that. There's nothing they can really do to mess up the computer. And again, that was something that was set based on their account. Digital citizenship lessons are a part of their curriculum, just like math, just like science, just like reading. Our teachers have a curriculum that has been pushed out by the county. It is taught and is required to be taught by every teacher. So this is something that is formally taught, but also informally taught. So, as teachers are introducing tools to their students, such as using the stream in their Google Classroom, they're teaching what is appropriate and what is inappropriate content right there. Additionally, digital tools that our teachers use must be approved through the county. They go through a very extensive vetting process. And if it is deemed unapproved, our teachers do not use it with your children. Sometimes they are marked as approved with conditions. And what that means is that certain websites, based on their privacy policy, require parent permission for students 13 and under. And so FCPS, and you may have heard about this year, FCPS is asking that parents go on and view which of those websites the Bryn Mawr Park teachers use, and then giving your child permission to use those websites with us. Again, I want to emphasize, it's always kind of scary as parents when we're asked to give permission for our children to use something. We want to know why, we want to know how. Fortunately, all of these things are used under the supervision of the teacher during synchronous time. During asynchronous time, it's also something that, again, has been approved, and so you don't have to worry about your child's data. You don't have to worry about any of these things, because anything that has been approved is approved because it protects the children. As I'm talking, if you are already thinking of questions that you'd like to ask, you are welcome to type them in the chat. You're also welcome to just write them on a piece of paper if you'd like, and save them for that Q&A session. I just want to touch base very quickly on where you can give that parental consent. On the BMP website, there's an announcement that says, "Parents, we need your consent." When you click there, you're asked to go through a process of clicking on, it's like a database that you can then give consent to all of your children. If you are concerned about any of the websites that you see listed, feel free to reach out to your child's teacher to get more information about that particular website. It could be that that teacher doesn't even use that one, and that it may be used in another grade. It could also be that there may be some confusion that a teacher can clarify for you. Okay, so again, this is kind of what I was touching on before. Technology is going to help you, he said. This is from a guy at Norton Security, which is an antiviral company. He says, technology is going to help you, but it's not going to get away from the fact that you should be having more conversations about this with your children. So again, there are measures put in place to protect your children, and there are adults that are constantly working with your children, but the fact is that you've got to have those open communications, open conversations with your child about what they're doing. I'm going to mention this a little bit later, but it's not taking away technology for misbehavior is an appropriate consequence if your child is, say, not turning it off when they're supposed to, or not using it in a way they're supposed to, like they're sitting on the couch and they're supposed to be at a table or whatever. But it's not an appropriate consequence if your child is doing something that is inappropriate online. If let's say your child is participating in a chat somewhere, maybe it's on Google Stream or Google Classroom in the stream. If you take that away and tell them you can't do this, it's a Band-Aid, right? Is your child learning from anything by taking that away? No. You need to have the conversation with them of, okay, what is appropriate? What is inappropriate? How do you think this is making someone else feel? Those kinds of conversations are what's going to develop your child to be digitally responsible, as opposed to taking whatever that thing is away from them. Declaring independence. So by age 8, and maybe sooner, my 2-year-old is this way, kids want more independence. They develop their own relationship to tech and media, and so they want to play things like Minecraft and Roblox and Animal Jam. And if you've never heard of these, then start those conversations now. This is where those students are going to see the chat where they can be engaging with their friends. One thing to keep in mind is as they develop this independence, even though they may be independent on the computer, it doesn't mean they should be using it in seclusion. So, I know sometimes it's nice to have your child take their computer into the room because it's a quiet place to do their learning. But your child should never be taking their computer into the room at night. It shouldn't be something that they are, tucked away for hours on end using at their free will. It should be something that is monitored by you majority of the time, as often as you can. Just thinking for a moment, what was most important to you as a tween? And our students, a lot of them aren't old enough to be considered a tween, but in fourth and fifth grade, this does become very important. For a lot of us, it was all of the above, right? We wanted all of those things. Most of those things were important, or we kind of moved more towards our friends and fitting in, and less to our family because that was what was cool, I guess, in the moment. Students today are no different. They want the same things. And so it's important that we show them how to use these digital tools in order to, continue to connect with their friends. Because again, social media is not a bad thing. It's great for our kids to connect with their peers as long as it's used in an appropriate way. So they want to be more independent. They want opportunities to, reach out to their friends, connect who they are. So again, it's just our jobs to continue to guide them in doing that. We are the training wheels, right? We are guiding them through this, and then as they develop that independence, we will kind of do that slow release and let them navigate on their own. But again, while they're in the elementary age, they shouldn't be using social media or their computers alone. I mean, again, these conversations should be open. It is your job as a parent to help them find that balance between screen time and in-person time. So I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Bell now. She's going to talk about cyberbullying, which is something that, again, you may have heard about before, but just kind of what that looks like at Bryn Mawr and what you can do to support your child.
And about how much time do I have, just so that I don't go on and on?
About 9 or 10 minutes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Yeah. So cyberbullying, when we think of bullying, we think of a student that's being picked on, or a child being picked on over and over and over with the intent of making that child feel bad. And it's kind of manifested in the same way in the cyber world. In the 15 years that I've been at Bryn Mawr Park, I think I've dealt with one issue of children kind of picking on each other, like IMing each other or whatever they were doing. So I don't think it's that big of an issue at Bryn Mawr Park, but you should be aware of it, and you should be having conversations with your child about how are they hanging out with their friends online, what is going on online, what are they sharing online. I know that we talked a lot about that in our digital citizenship lessons, about what you put out there and the footprint that you're leaving. And go to the next slide. I guess I should have shared. So technically, well, studies show that bullying in person happens more often than in the cyber world. It is important, though, that children know that if they feel like they're being bullied, that they can talk to you about it, or have someone that they can go to talk about it. Just to clarify, is this a form of cyberbullying? They need to bring it to someone's attention, because we are not in that virtual space with them all the time, especially family choice time in the afternoons, weekends. It's really up to you to have those conversations with your children. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. If you think your child is being bullied, cyberbullied, it's best to report it. I would say try to get the teacher involved, try to get Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Lear, whoever you feel at the school could help intervene. Take screenshots, because it's a he said, she said thing in that case. As Mrs. Russell said earlier this evening, when we're at school, we really are trying to teach them good social skills and just how to be good people. And it's really easy to correct those behaviors. And so to kind of transfer that into the virtual world, it looks a lot different. I'm learning myself. She talked about taking digital things away. Well, trying to find consequences that fit the behavior. For instance, I had some kids that couldn't handle me going to a breakout room, and I had said that they could have a 10-minute free chat. So instead of just not letting them chat at all, period, or doing breakout rooms, I just took it away for a day. So just trying to teach them how to use the tools and what the expectations are with every teacher. I think that's really important. And what are your expectations? What are you expecting them to do with their computers. When it comes to schoolwork, when it comes to socialization, what are you expecting them to do? I think the biggest thing that I wish that all parents would do is we need you to check in with your child. Like if you're not at home with your child, when you get home from work, say, hey, how was your day? What did you learn? What did you work on? Show me your Google Classroom. Show me the sites that you went to. Show me the assignments that you're working on. Because I know that I've had parents say, oh, I didn't know they had any assignments, because the child's not used to showing their work on a computer. They're used to bringing home a Thursday folder or papers or notebooks. And so it's really up to you to ask, because I don't know too many kids that are going to say, oh, here, let's look into my computer. So it's really important to check in with your child at almost every day. Ask to see their emails, because we're trying to get, I know in 5th grade we are pushing, check your Gmails every day. That's where we send updates, messages. We want them to get into those habits, but we also want you encouraging it. And if they see that you're interested or involved, then it's going to make it a little bit easier. I liked this next slide where it talks about making a family media agreement where everybody kind of agrees to what the rules are. What are the expectations within the family? I liked that Mrs. Russell said that they have a no phone rule at the dinner table. I think that's really important as a family, what are our expectations when it comes to using our laptops, using social media, using our cell phones. And it just makes it safe, because I mean, like she said, her 2-year-old called her out and said you can't have the phone at the dinner table. It holds everybody accountable. I also feel like it sets that example that, especially because kids like to be sneaky, like she said, like they find the go-arounds. But I always tell the students, if you wouldn't do it in front of me, if you wouldn't do it in front of your parents, and if you wouldn't do it in front of Mrs. Williams or Mrs. Lear, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. And if you even hesitate for just a moment about if it's a bad thing or a good thing, then you probably shouldn't do it. Or if you're not sure, ask somebody. Because I always tell the students, the worst thing that someone's going to tell you is no, you can't use that, or you shouldn't be doing that. And that's the end of it. It's better to ask than to do something wrong and get in trouble down the road. So I think this is a really good piece to digital citizenship.
And I will just add, if you don't mind, Ms. Bell, that this document is actually available for you to use. This is an example of one. And you may notice that the bottom of each of these slides has this Common Sense Media logo. And a lot of these slides were taken from their pre-made content that you can use. Common Sense Media is an amazing resource for parents to go to and learn about digital citizenship. And one of the things that you can get from this website is this family agreement. You can obviously create your own, but if you are interested in having this one, these slides will all be posted on the Bryn Mawr Park website. This whole presentation will be there. When you go to check it out, you can just click right on this image and it'll take you straight to that family agreement.
Or make your own. Yeah, whatever works for you. I know sometimes, like, a lot of us don't have printers, and so I'm trying to get the kids to write things down. I write things down all the time. If you saw my sticky note pile over here, it's a little out of control. But I do agree with this, instead of shutting it all down, build it up. I think the important takeaway from this is to build that relationship now with your child, so it doesn't feel like I'm trying to catch you doing something wrong. It's just a habit that you've gotten into, like brushing your teeth every morning and taking showers. Those are healthy habits. So it shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, what are they trying to catch me doing? It should just be, I'm just checking in. I'm interested in your day. It's a different way, because when they're coming home from school, you're looking at, do you have homework? What do you need to be doing right now? Oh gosh, I think that's it. Am I right?
Yeah, you did great. That was perfect.
Thank you tried. So much. I'm so brain dead. I'm sorry. I was like a lot of it's been a long day.
Thank you. It's so nice to have that teacher perspective, for sure, because you're in there, especially with those 5th graders, and you can see what they're doing.
And we really are trying to help them be like good little humans online. I'm like I can't do it with you in person, but I'm trying to make you think about those choices that you're making and how it not only affects you, but how it affects others around you.
For sure. Thank you. So if you're looking for more resources, the Bryn Mawr Park website, and again, these are linked here, and you can't click on them now because we're presenting our screen, but when you go onto the Bryn Mawr Park website later, there's in the full menu, there's a page on technology, and you can find these slides there, and from these slides, you'll be able to click on each of them. Just keep in mind that when you view these slides, you do have to be logged into that at fcpsschools.net account. And if you need help, your child can probably help you do that because they are using those accounts all the time. So moving forward, we're going to learn a little bit more in these breakout sessions. So I'm going to explain how this works. Here we go.
All right, welcome everyone. My name is Miss Jennings and I'm a 3rd grade teacher, and I'm joined by Mrs. Ellis.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to join you guys.
She will be monitoring the chat, so if you have any questions that you want to ask someone right away as I'm talking, feel free to type it in the chat and we can help you out. All right, so we've kind of put together what we kind of thought of as the most important tech tips in 10 minutes for parents during virtual learning. The first topic we're going to cover are tabs. This is something that students use all day long when they're in school, and I think most students at this point have started to get the hang of it, but I think parents being aware as well of what tabs are, how you navigate between tabs, is just helpful in using Chrome, using the internet on the computer. So just to start off with, what are tabs? They're essentially pages on the internet, websites, and you can have open many different pages which look like right here, circled in red. Those are different tabs. So right here, I can see there's 3 tabs open. We have Google Drive, this is Google Slides, and a Google Docs. So one thing that we ask students to do frequently is open a new tab. The reason we would ask them to open a new tab is they can go to a new website without closing the website that they are on. When we're in Blackboard with them, if they just type in Google and go, it takes them out of Blackboard. They're not with us anymore. So usually we'll ask them to open a new tab so that they can go to the website we're using, but stay in Blackboard on their other tab. So to open a new tab, they click the plus sign. You should see this at the top of your screen if you're on a computer in Chrome. Most internet browsers do have similar features. It might not look exactly the same if you're not in Chrome, but it should look similar, I think. So if you click that plus sign, it will open a new tab, which will look like this. Usually it just says new tab, and it's essentially a blank page that you can take to any website you would like. In order to close that tab, you can click that X, that small X, and it will just close that tab. And it takes you back to whatever tab was next to it. It does not close all of the websites, it only closes that one tab. This is really useful when we have students working on an assignment. It'll be in a certain tab, and we might ask them to close it and come back to Blackboard. That way, they're not distracted by the assignment anymore. They're not working on that. They're back present with us. So clicking on that small X will close just this page. If we ask them to close Chrome, to close all of their websites, they click the big X in the corner. This will close every tab that you see. We usually don't ask kids to do this, except if they're having trouble on the internet, if there's a Blackboard issue. Sometimes I will suggest this as sort of like a restart of Chrome. It closes Chrome and then lets Chrome reopen again. And sometimes that will fix a Blackboard problem. So most of the time we'll ask students just to close a tab with the small X, but just know that that big X in the corner will close all of the tabs. Okay, I am going to I'm going to skip showing you this, and I'm going to go to the next tip, and then after that I'll show you all of them together, just for the sake of time. I ran out of time last time. So the next thing we ask kids to do a lot is bookmark tabs. I've said the word bookmark a lot over the past few weeks. My kids are probably getting sick of it. But bookmarking tabs is a way to make websites easier to get to. Instead of them having to go to their Gmail, find the email from Blackboard, click on the link, they can just open Chrome and click on one button and it takes them to Blackboard. So in order to bookmark a website, first you have to go to that website. So on this slide, you'll see an example. I'm on the Bryn Mawr Park website. If I wanted to bookmark this website, I would click on the star up at the top. That star is usually white. If the star is white, that means that site is not bookmarked. If we want to bookmark it, we click the star and it will turn blue. This box pop-up will pop up and you'll click done. Once you click done, you should see the bookmark up towards your bookmark bar, which looks like this. It's right under the website. And then you're ready to go. In order to use that bookmark, all you have to do is click on it. So here is what a bookmark bar could look like. In order to get to that website, I would just click on the button, on the word or the picture. Okay, I'm going to quickly show you what this looks like. Opening a new tab, navigating between tabs, and closing them, and bookmarking. So I'm going to actually share my screen with you so that you can see what it looks like in action. I know that that sometimes is easier than seeing a picture of it. So here I have my screen with the Fairfax County website. In order to open a new tab, I go up to the top and click on the plus sign. And you'll notice when your mouse is on top of it, it does say new tab. Here's my new page. If I want to go back to FCPS, I can just click on that tab up at the top and it takes me there. I can click over here and go back to my new tab. So let's say that I am going to Blackboard and I want to bookmark this website. I use it a lot maybe and I want it to be easily accessible. I'm going to go up here and click the star. This pop-up will come up and you'll click done. Once you click done, it will now be in your bookmark bar. One important thing to note that I've had some issues with some of my students is we have a lot of bookmarks. And even though I already bookmarked this website, it just let me bookmark it again, which means now I have a new bookmark for the same website. So if students keep bookmarking a website over and over and over again, they just keep getting more and more and more bookmarks. And eventually this bookmark bar up at the top fills up. And then when I ask them to go to the bookmark, they tell me that it's not there. So one tip is if your student does not see the bookmark they're looking for up here, if they go to the end and there's two little arrows and they click those, all their other bookmarks will pop up. And they can click on any of these to get where they need to go. So usually if they don't see the bookmark, they can click on those arrows and it usually is there. To close the tab, I'm going to go up and click on this small X and it takes me back to my other tab. If I want to close all of it, I go to this big red X in the corner. Okay. One last thing that we wanted to go over. I see we have 2 minutes left. I already went over navigating between tabs. To get back and forth between two websites, you'll just click on the tab and it takes you there. Doesn't close the other one, it just takes you to the tab you wanted to go to. Okay, now this is probably a pretty important part. I know I only have about a minute, but troubleshooting tips. If your child is having technology issues, these are some things you can try first at home that might help so you don't have to take it a step further. So the first thing I usually suggest is closing the tab and opening it again. It's the internet, it's technology, it has problems. I've encountered that many, many times over the past few weeks. Many times when they close the tab and click on the link again, it seems to work. They could try entering the username and password again. Maybe they spelled it wrong, maybe there was an incorrect number in there. Or try closing Chrome altogether, clicking that big red X and opening it again. That usually lets Chrome restart, and sometimes that solves the problem. The last big fix that usually helps solve most problems if those didn't work, is restarting the computer. In the corner of their desktop screen, there's a start menu. It looks like 4 little squares and it's black. If they click on that, this menu will pop up. This is the start menu. They can click on that little power button, and there's a restart button. This will turn their computer all the way off and back on, and it allows it to do some updates that generally help it get itself set straight. And then the last is just to let the child's teacher know. Sometimes the teacher might have a suggestion of how to fix that problem. And that's all we have time for. So thank you, guys.
All right, great. So it's looking like everyone is back who was in another session. So if you are back with us, this is an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you've been wondering about, or as you got information in the session that you might be wondering about now. You are welcome to raise your hand. Your raise hand button is at the very bottom of your screen next to your camera and microphone buttons. If you'd like to ask a question using your microphone or your camera. If you'd rather just type it in the chat, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to start by answering a question that was submitted prior to the session. And the question was, can we submit a website to block for certain hours? I find my daughter gets on a website and would like to limit the hours she has access to, of when she has access to that website, but I can't. The short answer is no, we can't do that as far as limiting certain hours. Again, most of the content filtering that's done by FCPS is solely based on the content itself, not the hours that students spend on certain websites. So what I would say, if you were the one who asked that question, is maybe setting timers, setting limits with that particular child. Set a timer and say, okay, today you get an hour, half hour, whatever it is that you've agreed upon. And when that time is up, you have the agreement that your daughter shuts the computer down, goes outside for a little bit, takes a physical break around the house, that sort of thing. So I think in that case, it's more so just setting the expectation within your home. What other questions can I answer for you tonight, if any? Or was our information so clear that you don't have any questions? If you do not have any questions, this is actually the end of our evening. All I would ask is in the chat, I just sent a link to a feedback form. If you don't mind taking a moment to complete that form for us, it just gives us an idea of who was with us and what you got out of the session. Otherwise, you're welcome to leave. If you do have a question, again, you can just raise your hand by pressing the button at the bottom to raise your hand. Looks like this. You can also just start talking by turning on your mic, also at the bottom. You're so welcome. Thank you for joining. No questions? You guys aren't wondering anything about technology? It's awesome. It means we've done our jobs.
I was going to say, Mrs. Russell, I think this really speaks to the preparation that each of you did in order to really inform our parents. Some of the side chat feedback has been really positive. So thanks to all of you for everything that you've done to help support.
Sure, anytime. Awesome, we have a question. Okay, how do I block sites likely to disrupt the kids from learning? I guess it would kind of be a question of what are those sites in particular, because if your child currently has an FCPS device, there's no way for you as a parent to go in and block sites yourself. It's all coming from the county, and that's just to make sure that all the children are protected in the same way. If there's a particular website that your child shouldn't be on during the learning, then again, I think it's a conversation to have with that child to make sure that you set those expectations, they understand those expectations, and then what is the consequence should that rule not be followed. I know it's kind of frustrating as a parent. We want a little bit more control. And I would say if you have your personal device, I know you can talk to your internet provider and talk to them about parent controls, and you can limit things that way. But again, that won't work if you're using an FCPS device. YouTube on home computers. Yeah, so you can talk, again, if it's a home computer, you can talk to your internet provider and get those blocked. I don't know about blocking that particular site for certain times of the day if you're able to do that on your personal computer, but again, it's not something that you can do on a FCPS device. You're welcome. Sorry, my kids are having
So I just wanted to take a very quick moment to thank Candace Jones, second grade teacher, for being here this evening. Candace, thank you. I know following a long day and to be here this evening is quite the commitment, so thank you. We have first grade teacher Megan Chu, who is here and had also prepared a session alongside Emily Bear and Becca Heck, so thank you ladies for being here. Melissa, thank you, Ms. Bell. Thank you for your time and collaboration with Mrs. Russell in preparation for the digital learning piece. Mrs. Ellis, Mrs. Henchy, trying to make sure I'm not missing anybody, Miss Jennings, Miss Harrison, Miss Grimm, and Miss Jenkins. Thank you so much for all of your time and energy. It's very clear that you put a lot of time and energy into the preparation, and I just want to thank you for that. In addition to your virtual learning platform and learning a new way of doing things, I appreciate your commitment to the families and helping support our families and knowing what this looks like for our students as well.
And I will add that all these amazing teachers did this, I mean, without any flaws. I mean, they whipped it together and, you know, they took it and ran. All I did was facilitate. So they did a fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you.